All right, to continue on here, my video stopped in the middle there, not sure why. We're going to continue on with preparing for the story. You have to write for the ear and not for the eye. That, in essence, is what you're supposed to do. Write for the ear and not for the eye. When you write for the eye, you're writing newspaper copy, you're writing magazine copy, you're turning in a term paper. When you're writing for the ear, it's a whole different matter. People don't have the chance to play back what you just said. It has to be clear upon the first mention. Now let's talk about organizing the newscast. Organizing the newscast usually consists of a 5-minute newscast. That's what radio stations, local and medium-sized stations normally do, a 5-minute newscast. And often they lead with the local news. They start with the local news and then go into more national, regional, and then international stories. Usually you're covering anywhere from 15 to 20 items in a newscast. That's a lot of items. But it also means that a lot of the items are not covered in depth. It's sort of headline news is what radio does. It gets the information out there that people can go and research further. And a lot of the stories are done right before you go on the air, especially breaking news. You know, you're on the air in 30 seconds and you're at 28 seconds and you're finishing your last sentence that you're typing up on your script. Radio stories typically are 15 to 60 seconds long. That's the range. Longer than 60 seconds is almost unheard of in radio. Now let's go to radio network news, because local news is not the only kind of radio news. We also have news that's coming from the big networks, and normally local news works together with network news in terms of a segment. So at 5 till the top of the hour, 6:55 in the morning, you may have your local news, and then you're supposed to finish exactly as your local news announcer at 7 o'clock. Because at 7 o'clock, the satellite feed is coming down from ABC, CBS, ESPN, Fox, with more national news. These are the big networks. They have the power, the resources, the wealth to cover national news, to have a correspondent at the White House, etc. And so that's what happens. And so every time you design news, you're trying to have a soundbite. News directors who send their reporters out into the field, they often say, go get me some good sound from the field. It's like the content of the sound is not even really what's being emphasized. They just need sound, because that's what radio does. It tells information by sound. So you have to get quotes. You have to get the sound of a ticker tape. You have to get the sound of a parade. You have to get singing. You have to get sound, or actualities, as we sometimes call them, from the field. Now, for our two final items that we want to cover today, have to do with areas of the law and areas of morality, if you can consider it that way. So news and the law. Well, you do have to be careful in radio about libel. That is, damaging a person's reputation through reckless reporting. Reporting that somebody was drunk when they're not. Reporting that somebody was at the scene of a crime when they were not. These are situations where you may be sued for libel. And for that reason, we use words like alleged, which you will learn in your broadcast journalism class how to do that. And those kinds of stories have to be archived. You have to keep your script. That's why we're so very, very intent on making sure you do that at WESS. We have actually had one time where we had to produce a script because we had an allegation of libel by a listener. And we were able to prove that we covered the story in a fair and accurate manner. And when you go out to interview people, you can't just stuff a microphone in their face and start asking them questions. The law says, the FCC law says, that you must notify the person that you are a reporter, that you're with X station, whatever that is, and that you plan on reporting or broadcasting what it is that you're asking in terms of getting answers from the person. And so if you have a flag on your microphone that says WESS, you don't have to tell them you're from WESS. It makes it plain. But you do have to tell them that you'd like to ask them some questions for a newscast. Now we go on to news ethics. News ethics has to do with how well is radio doing its job. Is it ethical, the way that radio news is doing its job? And a lot of people are criticizing radio news. They're saying, it's not providing depth. If it was providing depth, you would know right now who the Prime Minister of Canada is, which you probably don't, right? I'll give you 5 seconds. Who's Prime Minister of Canada? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe you got it. Maybe you said it was Justin Trudeau because he's a good-looking person, supposedly, and he tends to be in the media more often because, I'm not just saying that's the only reason, but certainly contributes to why he's in American media. But by and large, our radio news is not that deep. You certainly don't know the president of Mexico, right? You don't know Manuel Luis Obrador. You don't know him. So radio news is mostly headline news, but it serves that purpose. People, they pick up what they can, and then they go research the information later. And so part of the criticism is that radio news is just too brief and contributes to really not a deep understanding of the world. A second criticism is that radio news is mostly entertainment. What is news is really disguised as just gossip about celebrities, about corruption, about scandals, about things going wrong, trivial stuff. It's about what Oprah Winfrey is doing in her latest diet. That's what news is criticized for. It's more about entertainment than it is about serious substance. And finally, radio news is criticized because of the clock. It's criticized because they have that ticking clock, and you have to get your stories done according to the timeline, and you have to get your stories into 15 seconds or 30 seconds or at the very most 60 seconds. That also it causes reporters to make mistakes and to misreport information that if they had more time to work with, they would not be doing. So there you have it, radio news. Have a great day.